With 2020 finally kicked out of the door, what a god-awful year that was. I'm sure 2021 has nothing awful for us sitting in the bleachers, so to speak, because, well, we're going to kick off things once again with some fresh information about the upcoming expansion or update for Stellaris. Yes, that's right, we got ourselves some spy stuff. Yes, good old Eldorindo, the person that we talked to during the Dev Talk a little while back. Feel free to go and check that out. There's a link at the end of the video for it. And basically he said, you know what? I've been working on some of those their spy systems. So let's take a look at what we have on that, because the economy stuff is already kind of discussed so far. But there is much more to be had. So, first of all, envoys and spy networks. There's quite a lot of stuff going on in the background with a brand new system that involves building a spy network. Now, envoys will have a new ability called Build a Spy Network, and effectively, rather than using the ability to improve relations or harm relations, they can now also build a spy network. Now, obviously, you only have so many spies at the start of the game, or at least envoys at the start of the game, so you're going to need to set up your systems properly. Are you going to set up a spy network with your friends? Or some of the other guys along your borders, who knows? But those envoys gonna be pretty powerful in terms of their mechanics. Still no word on whether or not they're going to have any traits or not. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Yes indeed. Nothing about that just so far though, which is a little bit of a shame. Still though, they will have the ability to put a spy master in a network of covert operatives and agents that will grow in power over time. It's very similar in regards to the gain relationships functionality, where over time you will increase your spy power as your envoy will build its networks and making sure that all of the operatives are in the right place. So yeah, there is quite a lot of cool stuff involved there, and there is a couple of images on your screen as well. Spy network established right off the get-go. Now, obviously, you start from scratch, right? You can't really go in and say, yo, this is a spyware network now. We are MI6. We're going to be able to do whatever. No, you are going to need to start from scratch. Apparently, initially, it's a bit of a ramp up, but then it slows down a little bit because your network will gain strength. But then, of course, you don't have that many people to tap into at some point. Now, networks can be built in large, sprawling empires. So the more sprawl an empire maybe has, the easier it is to build a spy network. It's not really clear in the dev diary itself whether or not this is the case. However, the target empire will have something called an encryption system. You'll also have a decryption system of your own as well. Basically, the higher the encryption is, the more difficult it may be to get a empire spy network going. So, for instance, machine intelligence are really good at encryption and decryption, and are probably going to be real powerhouses in the spy department, because, you know, they are computers. They will be able to crack stuff really quickly. However, on the other hand, hives and psionic empires, i.e. the mind readers, are really good at counter-espionage. Yes, counter-espionage will also rear its head in this particular case. Now, as I mentioned before, there is a ramp up. You can get your spy networks to a certain level. It peaks out at 50 initially. Over time, you can get technologies and abilities and civics and stuff like that in order to get higher levels of stuff. Now, it's not particularly clear what you can actually do with that level, whether or not it is a spendable resource or not. There is some illusion that it may be. However, you can get more over time and then get access to new abilities. Apparently, you can have disposable assets within the target empires, and they can also get boosts. So think like computers that have been breached, or bureaucrats that are not particularly happy. And every single asset will increase your spy network cap in that empire. Yes, there are individual caps per empire by 5. I do hope that there is going to be a map mode specifically for this, otherwise it's going to be really difficult to keep track of. Regardless, though, that 50 cap does not always stay around, and you will be able to do a whole bunch of stuff with that. Now, assets are incredibly useful. There are such things like, here you go, hacked backdoors, deviant drones, resources that could be useful in your spy network, or disgruntled bureaucrats. So yes, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. These are the kind of assets that you will need to get in hands, and apparently there will be more details about said assets in future dev diaries. Now, of course, this does bring a whole bunch of changes with the system itself. Now, for instance, there's a whole bunch of civics as well as edicts that will come in. For instance, ruthless competition, it will increase your leader level cap and experience gain by 10%, as it always has. However, it also increases your maximum spy network level by 10. And once again, the spy network level mechanic is heavily leaned upon here. Shadow Council is yet another one of those civics that will also increase your spy network to by 10 levels as well, which is rather nice. Free Haven, you will be able to have less counter-espionage because it's a open-minded society, introspective, which is one of the mechanical systems, civics even. They will be able to get additional counter-espionage because if you're introspective, you'll be able to understand yourselves better, and they are robots as well, which means that they are really good at counter-espionage, especially when running this particular civics. In addition, there's a couple of other things here as well. There's a new thing. Is it a new thing? Well, it's Transcendence. Oh yeah, okay, so it's Transcendence. It's just Transcendence. It's the Ascension perk. Effectively, if you get Transcendence, which by itself is pretty decent, I still don't think it is powerful as biological or robot. It will increase your decryption and counter-espionage by +2, in addition to all the other stuff that you already have, such as, you know, getting your full psionic potential and being able to do the seance and get access to the shroud. So Transcendence getting a little bit of a boost in this particular update. Decryption only being boosted by +2, and same thing for counter-espionage, does imply that the points themselves for decryption and counter-espionage are going to be quite powerful, considering you only get +2, and considering it is a Ascension perk, specifically with Transcendence, which is only accessible, I believe, through Utopia, making things a little bit more interesting. Then there's a bunch of techs that are coming as well, like, for instance, the psionic technology of thought enforcement. Telepaths monitoring the citizenry for incorrect thoughts will make corrections as they find them, which will increase counter-espionage, but they will be very unhappy. This is a unlockable edict. Then also it increases governance ethics attraction, which with thought enforcement, considering it's psionics, could be anything that is not materialistic, because of course materialists are having a difficult time getting psionics. And if you are materialistic and you do get psionics, make sure you grab that as soon as you can, because you know, the scientific mind, being able to use a mind bullets is a mind of its own. And then on top of that, there is a very similar one, which is called tracking implants. Mandatory subdermal implants record movements and actions, greatly enhancing our empire's internal security. Loyal citizens have nothing to hide from the government. And again, that is a civic that improves counter-espionage, reduces happiness, and reduces crime. It's kind of the opposite of the thought enforcement edict. It's not particularly clear whether or not these two are independently locked out from each other, but it does appear to be interesting. So you may be able to stack those, as long as, of course, you have psionics, and these come in the by society tech tree. Then there is the final one, which is the Bureau of Espionage, which is a standard edict, which has no negatives attached to it. You get additional envoys, which, if your envoys are going to be spies as well as normal diplomats, is very useful. There is a bunch of other ways of getting envoys, such as, I believe, being pacifist gets you to, at least the extreme version of it, the civic for Diplo Corps, and then of course the embassy stuff as well. And then I believe the one of the federations gives you extra ones as well. But then again, it gives you additional encryptions. Only +1 though, not as good as Ascension, which gave you +2, and of course the maximum spy network level. And again, that maximum spy network level pops up again And I really wonder whether or not those are points you will be able to spend, burn those assets, so to speak. Now, you can be able to put your spies to work. You need to build up that spy network. So what can you do with them? The more spy network you have, the stronger the network is, the more intel you have. Being able to see what kind of government the enemy has, what kind of diplomacy, relationships they have, their economy, technology, and military. One thing in particular I liked, or at least that was heavily implied, was the ability to not know what kind of pacts an empire has, and you go to war with somebody, and all of a sudden it turns out that these weaklings next door have a defense pact with the big boys down the street, and all of a sudden you are in a horrible war, which means that you're going to need to do quite a lot of recon, which I really like. I do like this idea of having to do reconnaissance on your target before you can bring down the hatchet, so to speak. But still, though, being able to passively provide intelligence is really good. There is an active part as well. We can, such as those agents that we talked about earlier. And apparently you can use spy power, i.e. the network's bandwidth. The spy power is not particularly clear on what it actually does, whether or not it is a total point of the spy network or the intel. But apparently you will be able to do special operations. Yes, you can send out James Bond himself, 007, out into the wild yonder to see what can be done. And these are little operations that are in 4 major categories. Subterfuge, which is of course gathering information that can improve the spy network. Sabotage, which is ruining things, physical or immaterial. Manipulation, replacing the truth with your own improved version, which could tie into the aging of spy reports, which I think is rather interesting, and provocations, which is most likely very similar to behind the scenes, which is one of the origins that were part of the mod jam. But yeah, more and more operations could be coming in the future as well. Who knows what it's going to be, but it's really about government, diplomacy, economy, stealing technology, doing stuff with the military and other intel categories, such as gathering information, acquire an asset, smearing a campaign, or steal technology. I know a lot of people have been asking about stealing technology and stuff like that. However, when I look at this list, and specifically the sabotage item, we've talked about this in the past when it comes to spy systems. One thing that I find a little bit of a slippery slope is a potential sabotage system. Nobody likes their stuff randomly blowing up, which is why I didn't like the original Robotic Uprising or any of the Civilization-style spy systems, because not being able to do anything against them. Then again, counter-espionage is noticed here, or mentioned here even, is a little bit of a worrying thing. But I digress a little bit. But still, next week, apparently, we're going to be talking a little bit more about operations, which is really cool. I really wonder what they're going to be doing. It's going to be a completely brand new UI, and apparently you'll be able to spend points once again. Yes, a brand new resource is coming in to get stuff rolling. There's a bunch of other stuff as well here. I'm quickly scrolling through. Things like Fnatic Purifiers will be able to use their own envoys to build spy networks, because usually Fnatic Purifiers or the Driven Assimilators, I think, as well as the other destructive robots, they cannot use envoys and are completely useless. So in this particular case, however, they are really nice. Provocations are pretty expensive, apparently, but maybe you will be able to trick another empire in going to war with somebody else. Counter-espionage value and having high encryption and decryption will make it more difficult to run operations in your empire, which is really nice and can cause catastrophic failures for those that would dare to touch a research database. I do hope that there is a nice consequence to your actions. Actions should have consequences, and if you go in taking a big risk, well, then that risk should be able to blow up in your face. And can we make the leader of our rival have a tragic accident? No, that is not the case. Undermining other empires by killing their leaders and stuff like that is a bit of a slippery slope, and I don't think the developers are keen on going down that route, because once again, destroying things that you can't really defend against is not fun. And in the end, fun is why we're playing this game, and not because of the annoying crap that can happen to us when it comes to spying. Regardless, we're going to go and wrap this video up. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas about when it comes to feedback about the spy system that is coming up, put your double O's down in the comments and let me know what kind of gadgets you want to do. Is it going to be an a set of inflatable trousers? Maybe. Could it be a pen that explodes when you click it 3 times? Maybe. In the meantime, though, if you want to see more about Eldarin and the upcoming changes to Stellaris, feel free to click the video link that is on your screen right now. It is an interview with Eldarin, also known as Mr. Murray himself, where we talk with him about the upcoming changes in the economy, which are quite impressive as well. Feel free to go and check that out. In the meantime, though, thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel as always. But we're going to go and wrap this one up here. And thank you so much for watching. And until next time, take good care of yourselves. And look behind you, 007. Who knows what could happen?